Dan Varroney, who's a highly regarded economic strategist, two-time author, and the #1 Amazon best-selling author of Rethinking Economic Growth. Dan, good to have you back.
I'm thrilled to be back. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. If I have to admit any bias I have, and I try to do that with my audience, I don't like the Fed. I'd like to get rid of the Federal Reserve altogether. Now, I know that may be a pipe dream, maybe that it's just not going to happen, but I'd like to downsize it and make it narrowly focused the way I believe you've written we really ought to be. Have something that's just focused on inflation very narrowly and not trying to run the entire economy. Is Warsh the guy to do that?
I think he's absolutely the right guy to do that. He's got a number of public statements, speeches, congressional testimony, all leading in that direction. He's a highly successful business executive, and he is just the right person at the right time. His biggest challenge is he's walking into a mess because there's been too much intervention, there's too much emergency policy and balance sheet expansion, and too much money pushed into the markets for extended periods. Jerome Powell on his way out has created inflation and too much quantitative easing, and we are where we are.
So how does he fix that? Is there a way to explain that in a way that folks without an economics PhD can understand? Because I don't happen to have an economics PhD or a BA.
So the answer is it needs to happen through a very disciplined and focused approach. There is going to be a policy that says that we're going to work with community banks and make sure that they can fund and finance local businesses because they understand local economies and they can make relationship-based lending decisions. That would be one example of it. Okay. Secondly, the Federal Reserve would not be called upon as the backstop for the economy, right? That Congress would play its role in making sure that they get to, what do they call it, a balanced budget?
Yep.
We've got a debt of how many $1 trillion now?
Almost 40.
And almost $40 trillion.
And that's the on the books balance. That doesn't count all the obligations we have. It's funny how we owe that money. Oh, but we also owe those other monies, but they're not in the form of treasury bills or actual borrowing, but they're obligations like Social Security and things like that.
Yeah, it is. So if you look at where we are and the mess that we're in, I remember Paul Volcker and some of his successors telling the Congress in testimony that you need to do a better job of balancing the budget and keeping expenses under control. This outgoing Fed chair said that wasn't his job. I think that Kevin Warsh will be vocal about that.
It's not his job to go to Congress and say, you guys are borrowing too much money, and when you borrow, you lock everybody else out?
Well, actually, it is.
I think it is.
It is. It absolutely is, Lars, and it hasn't happened for the last 8 years, and it's crazy. And they have locked people. They've locked small businesses out. Mortgages have been more expensive as a result, and it's a lot of this backstopping. We're gonna buy more of the government debt, and we're gonna float it through bonds. That's not helpful. That's expanding your balance sheet on the backs of the American people who have to pay for that in higher interest rates.
I guess, Dan, like I said, I don't have a degree in economics, but why can't the government do what, and the Congress have the guts to do this, to do what every other family out there does, and they don't do across-the-board cuts? That's stupid. I just think it is stupid. But if you were to say, look, we have less money than we thought we were going to have, and at this point they're underwater. So we're going to start cutting back on all of our spending. But a family would never do an across-the-board cut because that would mean, we're going to pay 90% of the mortgage and 90% of the car payment and 90% of the utility bill. No, because then you'd end up without a house, without a car, and without electric lights. So what they do is they say, the cable bill goes away. The internet gets cut down to the very bare minimum. We're going to take all these, and the vacation we were going to take this year, that's not going to happen. We're all going to be camping in the backyard and having a staycation. That's what a family would do. Is the Congress just constitutionally incapable of doing that?
It's not the Constitution that gets in their way. It's they get in their own way, and they don't like cutting anything. I would love a Newt Gingrich, a Bill Clinton budget deal that cuts spending, cuts taxes, and cuts regulations. Because if we got something like that, I got to tell you, if you think the economy would fly, that economy would really fly with that.
Well, you wrote the book, Rethinking Economic Growth. I mean, if you actually had those kind of circumstances, wouldn't the economy take off like a rocket and then produce more revenue anyway? Because I know there are simple-minded people like Democrats who say, well, if you cut tax rates, why, the government will get less money. Isn't the example over the last 30 years that every time they cut rates, the government ends up with more money?
John Kennedy cut capital gains rates and taxes went up. John Kennedy cut tax rates, revenues went up. Ronald Reagan cut them, revenue went up. I go on and on. It's really simple. You give people more of their own money, they will find a way to spend it for themselves.
And if you give the government more of your own money, then they will just find new creative ways to waste it, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And there is too much spending and not enough getting done. With this administration.
Dan, could we ever get to a penny plan? Could we ever get to the penny plan? Say, okay, all you the only across-the-board cut I would take is you said every federal agency, you had 100 pennies this year. For every dollar you had 100 pennies of, next year you got 99 cents. Figure out how to do the job on 99 cents out of a dollar.
Listen, that's what small businesses do.
Well, think about all the restaurants who are told by, the folks in Los Angeles, hey, you got to pay all your minimum wage people $20 an hour. Okay, then we don't need 5 waitresses, we need 4 or 3. We don't need, the kid who's sweeping the parking lot. I mean, there are going to be things that will be cut, but you don't go in and shut the whole place down.
Agreed. It's about managing the resources that you have, and Congress, both parties have been guilty of this, Lars, you know that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got to stop, and it's just out of control, And you saw the bond markets have a fit today, right?
Yep.
You saw the 30-year and the 10-year, and why they're having a fit? They're having a fit because they're saying from all this COVID, washing the economy with cash, and then the last administration washing the economy with cash. We've got resident inflation that isn't going away.
No, it's not. That's Dan Varroney.